Shirik shirik yenten Shiyin rikbi yenten
Dashin lop chu tsulu Meta mebi norbu Shirik yenten ino Dashin lop chu tsulu Meta mebi norbu Shirik yenten ino
Kazazampala to all the listeners and welcome to the radio lessons. I am Sede from Punctuation Primary School in Timpo. This program is to reach to all the children across the nation. Today's lesson is lesson number 3 from volume 3 of the self-instructional material. It's an English lesson for class 1 and the topic for today is punctuation marks. Let me repeat the topic again, punctuation marks. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify 4 punctuation marks. And what are those 4 punctuation marks? They are capital letters, full stop, comma, and question mark. So capital letters, full stop, comma, and question mark. And you'll also be able to use these punctuation marks correctly in sentences. So are you ready to learn? So let's look at activity 1. So let us learn the punctuation marks. Do you see some clouds? How many clouds are there? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 clouds, and in each of these clouds, can you see the punctuation marks? Yes, you can. So let's look at the first cloud. What color is the cloud? It is blue. And do you see the punctuation mark inside the blue cloud? How do you write it? It looks like an opposite C, right? So you start, draw like a C, and then you put a dot. So that is a question mark. So from the name itself, I'm sure you can understand when do we use this? When do you think we use a question mark? Yes, we use it at the end of a question. So if you're asking a question, what is your name? Or how are you? You have to end that question with a question mark. Let's go to the second cloud. What color is the second cloud? It is green. And what is inside the green cloud? It is the comma. And it's in rainbow color. Do you see that? A rainbow color. So how do you write a comma? It's a dot, and that dot has a small tail. Dot and a small tail. So that is a comma. And when do we use a comma? We use the comma when we are making a list. For example, let's say you're going shopping and what are you going to buy? So I want to buy some potatoes, some apples, some chilies, some onions. So when I'm making that list, I have to use a comma. Okay, so maybe I'm going to buy some potatoes, comma, some oranges, comma, some apples, comma. All right, so when you are making a list of things, you need to use the comma. Let's go to the third cloud, which is yellow. So in this cloud, you can see the alphabets, right? You have from A, B, C, and dot, dot, dot. That means all the other alphabets. And then it ends with X, Y, and Z. And they are all in capital letters. So this punctuation mark is capital letters. And when do we use capital letters? We don't use capitals in all our writings. We use capital letters at the beginning of words, of some words. And those words are either names of people. So if we say Sonam, we have to write a capital S. If we write a name of a place like Paro, then you have to have a capital P for the name. Or if it's a name of your school, let's say Georgina Primary School. So then the name of your school, Georgina, J has to be a capital J. So we use capital letters for names of people, for names of places. Okay, now let's move to the last punctuation mark, which is in a pink cloud. And what is that punctuation mark? It's a dot, right? How do you write it? It's a dot, and its name is full stop. What is that? It's a full stop. And when do we use a full stop? Just like the word suggests, when the sentence ends, then you have to put a full stop. For example, if you say, I'm having a good day, so you have to put a full stop to say that your sentence has finished. Now in activity 2 on the next page, we will see how these punctuation marks are used, because when we are talking, we don't need those punctuation marks because it's in the tone of our voice, it's in the way we say it, whether it's a question or an answer, right? But when you're writing and when you're reading what is written, you cannot tell whether it's a question or whether you are making a list. So punctuation marks are very important while you are writing and while you are reading, so that you know when to stop, or when it's a question, or when it's a list. So in activity 2, let's look at the first example. Example 1. There is a sentence in the box. Let's read the sentence, shall we? My name is Tashi. So there's a sentence that reads, my name is Tashi. And do you see the sentence begins with the capital letter, right? What's the first word? My. And my, the first letter of the first word is always capitalized. So that's why there's a capital M, my. And then we have name is Tashi. And Tashi is also a name of a person. So therefore, you have to have a capital T for Tashi. So those two are capital letters. And at the end of the sentence, my name is Tashi, you have to have a full stop. Do you see that? There is a dot there, and that's called a full stop, which means your sentence has finished. Now look at example 2. We have a longer sentence here this time in the box. I have a book, a pen, a pencil, and an eraser in my bag. What do you have in your bag? So did you listen to how I read that sentence? I couldn't have read that sentence properly if there was no punctuation marks, right? So punctuation marks also help you to have a nice flow to your sentence and also gives you the space to breathe. For example, if there were no punctuation marks, I could be reading this sentence as, I have a book, a pen, a pencil, and an eraser in my bag. What do you have in your bag? So if I read like that, it doesn't make sense, right? You don't get the whole sense of this sentence. So punctuation marks are important because they give a sense to your sentence. So when you say there are some things in your bag and you are listing it out, you need to use the comma. I have a book, comma. Do you see that? A pen, comma, a pencil, and then the final one, you don't need a comma, and an eraser in my bag. And then there's a full stop. So you have to take a 1 second pause. At the end of the next part is a question mark. So you cannot say, what do you have in your bag? As if it's like a sentence. So because you see the question mark, you have to add the questioning tone. And you have to say, what do you have in your bag? Do you see there's a questioning tone to it? Okay, so when you ask a question, what do you have in your bag? You have to add a question mark at the end. And if you are telling an answer, I have a book, a pen, a pencil, and an eraser in my bag, you have to put a full stop. Were you able to understand that? Okay, so look at the bottom of the page and then you can see a table. It says match the punctuation marks. So on one side of the table, you have the punctuation marks, and on the other side, you have their names. So let's look at the punctuation marks first. The first one says ABC dot dot XYZ. So that means, what punctuation mark is that? Is it full stop? No. Is it question mark? No, right? It's capital letters, because all of the alphabets have been written in capitals. So this is capital letters. And then below capital letters, what do you have? There's a dot. What is that? That's a full stop. And then you have a dot and a tail, and that's a comma. And then at the end, you have the question mark. So that's the punctuation marks. And on the other side, we have their names. So I'm going to read it out for you. The first one is full stop. The second one is capital letter. The third one is question mark. And then the fourth one is comma. So your job is to match the name and the punctuation mark. You can do it, right? I know you can. Okay. Now let's move to activity 3 on the next page. The instruction says punctuate the sentences. So we have some sentences and we have some pictures. So we have to punctuate the sentences. And what are the punctuation marks that we are going to use? It says here, use capital letter, comma, full stop, and question marks. So we have to use the 4 punctuation marks that we have just learned. So let's read sentence number 1. Do you see the picture? What picture do you see? There's a bag, right? And what color is the bag? It's red. So keeping that in mind, let's read our sentence. The bag is red. Okay. The bag is red. Do you see something missing? What's missing? That's right. Did you see that? It's a sentence, but there is no full stop. So you have to add a full stop at the end. Can you do that? So the bag is red. And then you have to put a full stop. So similarly, you're going to do that for question number 2 and 3. So let's look at number 2. Do you look at the picture first? There's a farmer, and it looks like he's about to feed his pigs, right? So, okay. And where is that pig? It's in the pigsty, right? The pigs live in the pigsty. So let's read number 2. Where is the pig? All right. So is this a sentence or is it a question? What do you think? Where is the pig? It's a question, right? So what should we write here at the end of this these words? What should we write? Should it be a full stop? No, it should be a question mark. That's right. So your job is to write a question mark at the end of this question. And then finally we have number 3. And look at the picture. You have a plate full of fruits. What fruits can you see here? There's bananas, and there are oranges, strawberries, and grapes. Right? Okay. So let's see. Let's read the sentence. Number 3 says, Sonam likes oranges, mangoes, bananas, and strawberries. So what punctuation mark should we have here? You're making a list here. So what punctuation marks do we need? That's right, you need the comma. And also, what do you notice? Sonam is a name of a person, right? So Sonam, when you spell Sonam, S should be capitalized, not just because it's at the beginning of a sentence, but also because it's a name of a person. So can you do that? All right. So once you have punctuated these sentences and question, you can always flip back to the next page and look at the answers and check whether the answer that you have written is correct. And finally, on the next page, we have the self-check for learning. Read and punctuate the sentences below. So we have 3 sentences, and you have to read the sentence and then punctuate them. Rewrite the sentences again, but this time you have to put the punctuation marks. So let me read you sentence number 1. My name is Dichen. I have 1 brother. So look at it carefully and find out which punctuation mark is missing. There are 2 punctuation marks missing there. So you need to rewrite the sentence and put those punctuation marks. Look at sentence number 2. We grow potatoes, tomatoes, chilies, and cabbage in our garden. So here also there are punctuation marks missing. So, not so. Please cut that. Okay, some missing. All right. Look at the third sentence or question. It could be a question. What do you grow in your garden? I'm going to say it again, read it again. What do you grow in your garden? So is it a question? Is it an answer? Is it a statement? So your job is to find that out and put the appropriate or the correct punctuation marks. Once you've done that, you can always go look at the bottom of the page. Do you see the answers? It's written upside down, so you can have a look at that and see whether what you have written is correct. And that, my children, brings us to the end of the lesson. So I hope you had a great learning experience, especially learning the punctuation marks. Do you remember the names of the punctuation marks that we learned today? There was capital letters, comma, full stop, and question mark. So well done, folks, for your wonderful effort. See you next time. Until then, be good and stay safe.
Şerik 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 yenten Şeyin rikbi yenten
Dashin lop tu tulu Meta me be norbu Shiri genten ino Dashin lop tu tulu Meta me be norbu Shiri